Greeting, beloved souls. It is such a beautiful day to connect with you. Today, we wish to speak about embracing rather than repelling those last little bits of negativity you're trying to release. You see, at this time, the transition energies on the planet are so strong that many energies no longer in sync with you and where you are going are having to surface in order to be released. Now, unfortunately, many of us have judged our negative beliefs, our negative patterns, and we've laid them up with guilt and shame in such a way that we can't fully express them to release them so we can be free. The energies right now are almost demanding that negativity flee from us. And so what it will look like is sometimes if you have a lifelong pattern where you're upset about something or you feel guilty or ashamed about something because you continually think or act a certain way, that will surface. And this is an opportunity for it to be its swan song, its chance to say goodbye and leave you. But because many of us overlay guilt and shame, oh, I'm terrible. I've always had these negative thoughts. I've always treated people this way, or I've always harbored this secret bit of judgment that I'm ashamed of and I shouldn't have because I'm such an enlightened and loving person. So we force it back down with those kinds of thoughts. And what we like to do is suggest that you turn this process on its head. And actually, as the negativity in you comes up, Peter the Channel has a lifelong pattern of guilt and shame about how he views certain things and interacts with certain people. So when it comes up, his tendencies go, oh, I'm doing that again. I'm still a bad person. Here's an opportunity to say, oh, this is coming up to be released. Now let me hold it and let me love it and let me give it some expression, because this is the last time, if we're lucky, this is the last time I'll be seeing this, because it's leaving me. It can't leave you until it's fully expressed. And the full expression means it has to have some allowance of acceptance. So can you love the aspect of you that you've spent your whole life hating or judging or being ashamed of? Now, even if it doesn't release in the moment that you love it and give it back to source, what happens is there's no longer a fixed energy, a magnetic stuckness that's holding that in place. So it may continue to surface just out of momentum, but as it surfaces in the future, after you've given it love and it continually accepted, then you'll start to see, oh, here's a cause. Here's a reason. Here's an experience in this life or in my past life where I had some stuck energy around this and this thought was laid in place. And then you can release that. You see, it may not be an immediate release that you get when you love those aspects of yourself that no longer serve or mesh well with this energy. But what it does is it gives you freedom to then have the connections to experience what is necessary for that to be released. That can be as simple as, oh, there was this other experience I had early in life or in a past life that I still have not fully moved, guilt or shame or whatever it is. And you feel that and fully let it express. And then the magnetic energy holding the other belief that you are ashamed of is free. And that's when you'll see it in your rearview mirror. Now, I know this is standing things on its head, but it's simply the way it must be now. We're moving into higher dimensions, and higher dimensions demand that we be in oneness and we be in love. That is the ticket, the price of admission to be in these dimensions. And oneness and being loved means all the aspects of you. Many of you are starting to see this. You're starting to see that the evil foes who've been doing all the evil things that we've judged so often, we're starting to see, oh my gosh, I'm in a oneness field. Is that me out there doing that? Do I have an aspect of me that I relate to doing that? And so we can start to have some compassion for external people as we understand more and more about oneness. But when it comes to ourselves, we've been less likely to give that compassion and give that acceptance to the long held beliefs and thoughts that we've held. Part of this is because we have a system built in our bodies where there's an emotional cascade, a chemical cascade of, oh, I have this memory or this experience, or I'm feeling this way again. And then all the imprinting that's been around us comes up, and that imprinting says, oh no, it's this and that's terrible, and whatever stories our minds tell. But concomitant with those stories that our minds are telling is the release of chemical emotional uh, the words escaped me right now, peptides, the emotional, the chemical substance that makes emotion. And those are released into our body and into our system. And that then creates a cascade. And that cascade, even though we may not like it, because it may be shame or something like that, is a familiar thing. And it's also on the biochemical level an addictive thing, because the receptors in our body have been set up for after a lifetime of patterning to receive that. And so we get that relief. Uh, the channel Peter did a lot of work in his career on tobacco prevention. And people who smoke cigarettes often say, "Oh, I need it, or else I don't feel good." So they'll take their nicotine inhalation, and then they'll get a relief almost instantly. And so the mind would think it's the nicotine that they're taking in that gives them this good feeling, when in fact it is quite the opposite. The case is that the receptors in their body that feel pleasure are deadened unless nicotine is there to allow them to feel the pleasure. So it's not nicotine that gives them the pleasure. It is the nicotine addiction that prevents them from feeling the pleasure. And only when the nicotine is present is that chemical bond set up in such a way that then they can have the endorphins of feeling good. So it's the same way with the emotional cascades that we've built up over a lifetime. It's not that, oh, we have this and then we feel better. We're addicted because we cannot feel good unless we have that chemical cascade, which also produces the bad feelings of guilt and shame. So it's a vicious cycle to get out of. Now, fortunately, we're moving out of the energies that are allowing that to take place mentally. Many of you listening to this know that you are infinite, you are your divine, you are source, and that you can invoke your godness, your God realization of yourself to help you clear these things. And they will clear, of course, on the chemical level. But what we are saying here is, to allow this clearing to take place, you need to embrace what is going on. You need to embrace, okay, I'm having this experience again. I'm feeling guilt and shame again. And then as you start to love it, then the chemical cocktail in your body shifts. And you're no longer in that cycle. And as we said earlier, you may not release it fully when you have the process of loving it, but what will happen, it'll release the magnetic and energetic bonds, so that you can then have the other experiences that have been suppressed earlier in life or in a past life that were concomitant with building in this layer of shame. We know we've wandered in this explanation. We know we've covered some stuff that you may be going, what? But the bottom line is, we really just want to give you the love that you are and the encouragement to take the love that you are and embrace whatever lifelong pattern that shows itself with a twinge of guilt or a twinge of shame. When the channel Peter first encountered oneness, he was told a story that fascinated him. He said that as he was taught that as your mind quiets, your mind never really goes away, it just gets quieter. But there's still going to be tendencies towards negativity in the mind, but you don't react to it like you used to. You just observe it. And the analogy he was given that he treasured was, it's like your grandmother sitting in the corner of the room. And when you walk in, she says, "Oh, you need a haircut. How come you're not dating that nice girl? You look skinny. You should eat." or whatever it is that grandma would say to you that you just know doesn't make any sense. But you see it as coming from a source that is not a power over you anymore and is not a judgment about you anymore. And you respond with, thanks, Grams. I love you. And I so gotta go. Thanks for telling me that. But that's not where I'm at today. You stay blessed, Grams. Now, this is where you're going to get with your emotions, not just with your mind. When that guilt or that shame is triggered again, once you love it, give it the opportunity to express, allow the opportunity for those concomitant thoughts and suppressed emotions that have been fixed into place, allow the opportunity for those to clear because you first cleared your initial guilt or shame by loving what came up within you. When you do that, then you'll be able to interact with these same things like you would interact with your grandmother in the corner of the room. Oh, there's that guilt again. Boy, I had that pattern for such a long time. And the emotional charge will no longer be there because you've done the mental work to release it. You stuck with it long enough so that the chemical patterning in your body no longer applies. And now you tap into the field of bliss because that's really what's been preventing you from having the inner peace and the connection and the bliss was just you've been vibrating at those low levels. And you would think, oh, in the old dynamic of 3D, this is bad. I shouldn't have that because I can't be at these high levels. And what we're telling you, you're in the new dynamic of 5D. So when it comes up, you have to love it. And that's how you release it. Many blessings to you.